Right, Tuesday's Times once more. Jerry Sadowitz demanding an apology, Josh. Now, we of course, have been speaking about this the other day, the comedian Jerry Sadowitz. Give us a background to this.
So, Jerry Sadowitz was doing a show in Edinburgh at the Pleasance, or organised by the Pleasance Theatre, which is one of the venues up in Edinburgh, probably arguably one of the most prestigious ones. And after the first night, they came out and said there were a bunch of walkouts, which turns out there wasn't actually that many walkouts at all, and we're going to cancel his show for the second night.
Now, there's always some walkouts at a Jerry Sadowitz show.
There's always some walkouts at every single show.
Yeah, there's that.
And they basically said this was they came out with this contradictory statement that it was they're all up for free speech and they don't want to censor what comics do, but then at the same time they said this stuff we can't say, you know. So it was totally contradictory. Then they've doubled down. Then they've obviously had a bit of blowback. So they've doubled down and essentially called him racist and sexist and bigoted.
And we have to be clear, his onstage persona is racist, sexist, bigoted, etc. But it's a persona.
Yeah, and it's in the context of a comedy show.
Right.
And so he's had to come out now and say, well, wait a minute, I didn't want to embarrass the Pleasance, but actually I didn't really have that many walkouts. It was a good show, and I have to fight them because they're he's done the worst thing, which he's been forced to do something terrible, which is to have to justify himself in terms of to explain that he actually puts thought into his acts. Once you start talking about comedy, it's not funny.
This is one thing, Nick, I found quite tragic about it, because it does feel like he's had to break character to explain how his act works to these utter half-wits who don't appear to understand comedy and yet are running a comedy venue.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. And I've supported him immediately since it happened on Twitter, and I wish I was a respected comedian, Andrew, and then I could just tear it all down over this, but it doesn't really matter what I say, or Leo, or even the mighty Andrew Doyle, because the cathedral comedians have to speak out about it.
And
Basically,
by that you mean?
I mean Stuart Lee, basically. To be fair, some of them have. When I say cathedral, I mean the establishment comedians in the lefty bubble. And Catherine Ryan has come out and said something, which is good. Richard Herring even has. So it'd be interesting to see if some of the others do.
And a guy called Simon Evans? I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yes, Evans is sort of on our team. So
do we not think that there should be a case? Why aren't comedians at the Pleasance saying, well, we're not going to do our shows? And I mean the mainstream ones. I mean the ones with the big audience.
Yeah. Well, I said I would love to boycott the Pleasance if I hadn't already boycotted the entire festival and the comedy industry. So it wouldn't be much for me. But they should be. And I just want to come back on their statement, which was so pathetic. Their initial statement was pathetic. Their second one was even worse. It had all the buzzwords of, you know, whatever you want to call it, wokeness. It had, like, all the isms. It had unsafe. It had progress, so-called. Global majorities found a way in a changing world. This was the most baffling paragraph. In a changing world, stories and language that were once accepted on stage, whether performed in character or not, need to be challenged. Do they,
You know, it was really high-handed, because the head of the Pleasance was talking about how Sadowitz's kind of material has no place on the festival. Who the hell are you to say what has a place on the festival or not? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, I mean, Josh, this has obviously annoyed me a bit, but I think particularly because they've used that language that Nick just evoked, unsafe. The audience felt unsafe.
Well, it wasn't about, and it seems like it wasn't actually the audience. It seems like the people who are working, the staff who are mostly students up at the festival, they may have felt unsafe.
It's this conflation of words and violence again. No one is unsafe by someone telling jokes.
But on the positive side, Luke Johnson, who's a co-owner of the Assembly Rooms, which is also a fantastic venue, has come out and said that the Pleasance can get stuff telling other venues to ban artists just because they've lost their bottle. So people are standing up. People of authority are standing up. We talked about this yesterday, but I think it's a flashpoint to see if people are going to actually be brave and fight for their freedom within a medium that we love.